So today we'll be finishing up the last pages in this tiny sketchbook. You know that I had a video, and I'll put it up in there, of how to start, small. We want to start small with this expressive drawing practice, a daily art practice, because, this can be intimidating, and even working on this size, it's a little bit of a jump. How do we eliminate the intimidation? Well, starting small is one way, and I'll be finishing up these pages in this video, and then I'll take a walk through this whole book. I made it my own, so you can always draw whatever you want on there. I kind of just let it happen. It's fun. This one is started, right? So we're starting a new one because I've been finishing up that one, and I like to have multiples of everything going on at once. So if it's multiple papers, multiple sketchbooks, multiple paintings, it's just the burst of color over here. Explosion, right? We want that creative explosion, that acceleration, because when you're really in your practice and when you're really into what you love, you can't leave it alone. You can't stop. I'm Natalie D'Adamio. I'm a mixed media abstract artist, soulful creator, and intuitive guidance channel. I love abstraction, and I'm working with the energy and the emotionality. It's really important to me. That's where the intuition is derived from, and I'm also through other practices. So let's get started on the last pages. So here I'm just working on the last pages, and just taking in the moment, the day, the energy, the emotion, and it's all through color and opening myself to exploring and experimenting, expressing, and seeing what's possible, and just letting it all out and letting it flow. Alright, so let's take a look through this finished little book. I'll maybe throw out a few things I'm thinking as we move through it. It's always funny to look back at what you've done, because what happens is not only are you working to make larger work, or you're working to release your thoughts and feelings and emotions through color, line, shape, and form, maybe even words. I like words a lot. And it's different every day, and there were some more minimal ideas going on here where I didn't keep covering the page. So, sometimes we limit ourselves by not exploring new terrains, because that can be scary. Or maybe you've been locked into a particular path and you're worried about the appearance of breaking away. That happens a lot, not just in our creative and artwork, but in our lives. But here, and I really encourage anyone to start an expressive and automatic drawing practice. That's what, to me, this is. It's just like an investigation into the mark and the memory and the mood, right? And of course we can think about color relationships as we go. Blue and orange are complements. Once you start to know the basics of the color complements and the secondary and tertiary colors, then you can also expand your knowledge with that as well. It becomes more innate and just natural understanding that you'll just gravitate towards the compliments. And sometimes we don't want a compliment. We want the opposite. We want at least I do in my work, I want a clash a lot of the time. But see, that's why it's important to know those internal feeling states. And the more we have these moments, even though they're small, and like maybe someone's looking at this and saying, what the hell is this? You know, the way I look at it, it's an experience. It's a moment, it's a mood, it's an emotion, it's an expression. And there's a lot of information in all of that, believe it or not. And that's why abstraction is so misunderstood. But for the ones who really like glom onto it and understand it from an emotional, intuitive, kind of spiritual way, like beyond, I think then that's why we end up loving abstraction. So here again, and oftentimes I am using, you know, the two, I'm opening up like the spread, and I'm like, probably thinking about the two pages together. Now, you wouldn't really have to entertain it that way, but if you're just going to have a moment, see, you could see this orange probably went to here. I'm not really worried about it making the marks. You could always fix your pages or put paper in between. You know, I'm not that worried about it. I want to have the experience and the record of the recording, so you can see like these are vastly different, but they kind of complement each other in a way. The blue to the orange, the purple to the yellow, so it still goes together in a way. And then collage kind of helps us anchor our sight, you know. Oh, here I was using some things from nature, little seeds. And you know, like that's a real minimal moment. That's just a pencil line and a collage piece. So it's a way to play with differences, right? There's more tree stuff there. I forgot I did that. You know, of course, I'm not really shying away from color. Usually never, even in these kinds of moments. But I am interested in sometimes how like it connects, right? Even looking at that. So what you want to notice over time, you built these experiences and they contain information. So we're paying attention. You know, I see a lot of these big circly scribble things. That one's more open. That to me. So like I'm noticing, oh, look at the repetition that happens naturally over time. And then when we talk about repetition in moving into the like larger work, you know, we can build off of these relationships. So one thing I want to say, I don't look at this as separate from the practice. I look at it as part of the process of uncovering yourself. And I also look at this practice as for someone who thinks they're not creative, for like say a musician, the automatic expressive drawing practice can access more information in general. So I'm like proponent that everyone should do it. But I'm a little biased. I'm preaching the love of it, you know. Sometimes when you just love it and it really does something for you, you know, you want to share that. So but then it's not like, you know, serious here. But the thing about that is there are like serious moments, you know, that have happened in between these pages. So it's containing the memory, right? And I noticed because this was kind of different in the beginning because that's where I was starting, but then you could see even here, whoa, what's happening there? There's a difference. So this is just like black marker. My favorite, oh, you can't probably read it because it's paint covered. The bold, like Faber-Castell, these thick markers. Love them. It's funny for me because I haven't looked through this all, so like I'm getting like, ooh, what was going on there? And then I have to think back to it because this has happened over time, you know. So it's just exploring, right? Color, line, shape, and form. And letting yourself have the experience, and like, we really don't want to be attached to the outcome, or at least I don't. You really don't want to be attached to the outcome in anything, really, because it will just, when it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But in the art making process, when you learn to let go by doing these exploratory and experimental drawing, expressive drawing, and automatic drawing practices with collage too. Collages, I always look at collage as a drawing element, though. I'm a weirdo. I'll explain that more in depth eventually. But basically, like, if you're gonna if you were gonna make a mark with this, right, you would just, this is the same kind of idea, like this is a mark to me. But that's the way I think about that. So you're drawing with anything, really. You're drawing with paper, you're drawing with the drawing tools, you're drawing with paint. It's a lot of drawing. I'm not really sure, like, if that, I think it's just what it is for you, and when you have a consistent practice, you're gonna build your relationships over time and your language, right? That's why I like to talk about words, because words do inform the work. Like right now, if I needed to describe this to you and you weren't looking at it, I would try to describe it to you. You know, it's energetic, it's alive, there's blue scribbles and green scribbles going vertical up the page, and there's little circular scribbles up to the top right corner with the yellow angular dash mark on the bottom with blue. You know, what I'm saying is, that's one way to like try to describe it, and then it's hard to describe it because that didn't really describe it if you weren't looking at it. But like when we're writing about our work, we maybe want to consider like the color themes and what's most interesting to us, and that then goes into the statement, right? So there's just this exploration that can be exciting and fun, and I always encourage my students and clients, when they're struggling, to start small. These are relatively like $13 on Amazon. I'll put the link in the comments below to the books, and to this too. It's just like, this is just like leftover writing from, a lot of times I'll be working away, and then I write down things, you know, I hear like from other people saying, or funny things, or my own ideas, right? That's like something I want to talk about soon. So that's another thing. We're talking about experimentation here in marks, but maybe while you're working something arises, like I don't know, a memory, a word. So that's intuition. You're paying attention to those subtle nuances and clues. When you open yourself to the drawing and practice, you allow the other things to filter through. And sometimes, where creative block is coming from is when we haven't really addressed things that are in the way. And sometimes that we go to do this and the thing is like lodged in there, and this is like energetically, or we're thinking about like that's an abstract idea, but in order to move that energy, move the emotion, move the body, move the mark, right? And sometimes they're scratching into the paint, words. I'm like really allowing myself to be like, oh, if I wanted to write, this sucks, I might write it if it comes up, I'm just, and you don't have to share that, right? There's so many things that you can keep private, but I like sharing it because it's challenging and risky, so that makes it fun for me. You gotta do what's fun, like in all these things that we're trying to express. Not necessarily what's told or quote right, or ultimately you as the artist and the creator and the individual have to come into that expression in voice, word, mark. It takes a lot, I think, and that's why we want to encourage a daily practice, this daily investigation, maybe not just having an art practice, having whatever, a physical practice, a spiritual practice, meditation. Although art making, it can be a meditation, but when we're hitting those blocks, it might not work the same. So we have to be vigilant. So now we're coming towards the end here, and there's just different relationships, different compositions happening. A lot of ballpoint pen too is what I like to use. But see, there's just like this subtlety here. That like pink, I don't know how it happened, but pay attention to these moments in the small way. When you're moving into the larger work, even if it's on this size, we're then gonna like start to see that, and you're like, oh, I really like that, like the way that happened. So then when you're working along, you're like looking for those moments to happen. But a lot of times it's happenstance, but yet you have to be present with it and the awareness of it all. I hope that makes sense. So I haven't looked at this. Sometimes a lot of my feeling states have gone into these small moments, even though you wouldn't think a lot could go into a little, but it can. And I gotta look again at it too and see what's going on. But I hope you're getting an understanding of how you can just start small. And it doesn't have to be so serious, but of course, then there is this depth to it over time, and I like the depth and the deep and the philosophical and soulful and the abstract, not just in the work, but like in the way I live my life. But we have to go on the journey in order to make this book, right? And you can really just give yourself 15 minutes or less a day. And now here we are at the last pages, And I really love what's going on here. And I don't know if you noticed in that video earlier, I didn't mean to rip out that page, but do you see, if you look back and you see what happened, I was trying to use this loose leaf paper, you know, so the page, but it was still wet. So then when I made this page, that paper got stuck and it ripped that part out. But then I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. But then I just used that as a moment. So that's another good example, because when we're then working into this larger work, we can look for those moments. How do we use those little moments and move them into the work? You see, this is why it's important to look at it as one whole thing, because this really does inform this, and I can see myself in that. This isn't secret, but it can be private, but it goes with the whole of everything. And that's the way I work with a sketchbook and my automatic drawing, expressive drawing practice. It's working in a continuation, and we're really building, you know, that momentum over time through color, line, shape, and form, mark, memory, emotion, intuition. There's a lot going on, and that's why in the beginning you gotta take it slow because it's a practice, just like anything. You know, you make this your life and then it changes. You make a commitment just for 7 days, 21 days, 30 days, 100 days. You're gonna see yourself change. So if you enjoyed the walk through this tiny sketchbook, make sure you check out this video of where I'm talking about more and the importance of just 15 minutes a day to kind of go together. And also, if you're interested in, you know, going a little bit deeper and starting to make these expressive mixed media works on paper, you can check out my course. It's available now. It's called Unleashing Creative Freedom, and it's all about accessing more of that energy, emotion, intuition, bringing our childlike nature into the process, because we can't leave that out, at least I can't. And, you know, exploring, experimenting, expressing, having fun.